I was at Southern with 72, 73, 74, and 75. By far the 73 team. That's the year we won the state championship while I was there. Uh, I was actually on the JV that year. If I'm not mistaken, we went undefeated in the county. I think we only lost one game, and I think it was to a DC team, an out-of-conference team. Everybody else, I know we were undefeated in the county, but that was a special year. That was a fantastic team, a good mix of seniors, juniors. I think we even had a sophomore that either started or he was the sixth man. Biggest rival, no doubt, was Annapolis High School. Annapolis High School was they were what everybody was measured against. Back then, if you beat Annapolis, you were doing something. So that particular year, we swept them. We beat them at their place, and then we beat them at our place. I still remember both games. Gyms sold out, packed, loud. It was probably some of the most exciting sporting events that I've ever attended. Best game, again, I go back to Annapolis. It was the second time we played them after we had played them at their place. They were coming to our place, so of course they had a little bit of revenge on their mind. And I'll never forget, it was like the day after they announced the all-county team. And Jimmy Dove, who was our center and our best player, was not on the first team all-county. And Annapolis, I think, had at least two. I know one of their big men was. And I remember Jimmy Dove coming out in that game, and Jimmy Dove was, I think, 6'6", so he was our tallest player. And if I'm not mistaken, Annapolis had a 6'8", a 6'7", and a 6'6". And he came out and scored between 35 and 40 and had probably 25 rebounds. He played one of the best high school games that I've ever seen. He was a man on a mission, to say the least. Best player, we basically had what's now was the big three. It was Quincy Cole, who was a shooting guard, all around, great defensive player, good offensive player. Chuck Makel, who was a forward, he was a junior. He was like 6'3". He was the kid that basically, with the rules of today, he would have been a three-point sniper. He was the one that could do anything he wanted on the court. But the funny thing about it is the best player on the team was Jimmy Dove. He was the senior. And again, if I'm not mistaken, I think Quincy Cole and Chuck Makel both made the all-county team, and Jimmy Dove didn't. But Jimmy Dove was the best player on our team, in my opinion. The good thing about Jimmy is, offensively, he was one of the low post guys. He was, back then or whatever, he was a back to the basket player. Throw the ball into him, and he could get the shots off, and he was tough in the lane. Defensively, he was a monster on the boards. We also had another forward who did all the dirty work. Edmund Mullen. He was another senior, and he was the other forward, and he would do the dirty work. But Jimmy Dove would be the one who would be dominating on both offense and defense. The funny thing is, after the '72 season, I remember if I'm not mistaken, we had just about everybody coming back, and we had three seniors, Quincy Cole, Jimmy Dove, and Edmund Mullen in the starting lineup, and Chuck Makel, who was a junior, and he was probably the second best player on the team. And then we had a young guy coming up as a sophomore, Victor Smith. It was just, you just had that feeling that if they got the breaks, they were going to have a great season. Mr. Albright. Mr. Albright was definitely, he was a player's coach, but he was also very well respected, where you did, the kids, the players knew not to try to get over on Mr. Albright. He was also the, I believe, athletic director or guidance counselor or whatever, and basically he did not want to see you during the day for reasons that he wasn't supposed to be seeing you for, and the players knew it. So my recollection is I don't think we ever had any discipline problems with players off the court or getting in any trouble to where Mr. Albright would have to get involved. Yeah, that was a special season back then. Matter of fact, I was just talking to a buddy of mine a month or so ago, and we were telling my son, as a matter of fact, when we played on the JV basketball team back in 1973, that both of us, the only reason we were on the JV was so we could go to every game. We could go every game to watch the varsity team. We were basically the, I guess we would probably consider the 12th and 13th player off the bench in a rotation of 11. So, and we would flip a coin to see who would be 12 and who would be 13. But it was fantastic because we got to go to all the away games, ride the bus. I mean, it was just a great experience. And the fact that we did, Southern and Mr. Albright or whatever ran the same thing every year. So it's one of those things where you knew what Southern was going to do, but you still couldn't beat them. They would run a full court 1-3-1 trap basically the whole game, and you basically, if you couldn't handle the ball, it was going back the other way. And also I remember it seemed like every team in the county had a special player, and we would always hear, when the coaches were going over the scouting reports and everything, about what players we had to worry about, and it seemed like he always had the answer for those other superstars, so to speak. All of them were very competitive games, especially the Annapolis games, as far as exciting. Our gym was sold out every game. Most of the other gyms that I can remember were all sold out also. So every game was like an event and very exciting. That's why 30, 40 years later I can still remember a little bit of the details when I can't even remember what I did last week.